What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are unboxing the Insta360 One R Twin Edition. Now this camera comes with both the 360 mod as well as the 4K mod. The 360 mod shooting at 5.7K 30 FPS and the 4K mod shooting 4K at 60 FPS. The Twin Edition is coming in at $479 from Insta360 right now. I've also purchased some accessories to go with this camera, including the lens guards, which are coming in at $30, as well as the selfie stick, which is coming in at $20. I've also purchased the SanDisk 128GB micro SD, so you can get different sizes, obviously depending on your needs, but 360 is going to take up a lot of storage space, so I think 128 is probably the size that you'll want to get. So one of the really cool things about the Insta360 One R is that you do get the invisible selfie stick. The selfie stick will not be visible in the shots that you take with the Insta360 One R, and that's not totally unique to this camera, but it is a really cool feature that makes shooting with a 360 camera especially unique. Really quickly, I want to talk about some of the reasons why I purchased the Insta360 One R versus some of the other cameras out there on the market. First of all, the One R replaces the Insta360 One X, probably the most popular and widely used 360 camera on the market. The One X is no longer being sold by Insta360, and therefore if you want a 360 camera from that brand, this is currently the consumer's best option. I would say the main competitor to this camera is the GoPro Max. The GoPro Max replaced the GoPro Fusion in late last year. And for me, the main reason that I purchased the Insta360 One R is the unique features that the Insta360 One R app offers you as the user. If you're not particularly sophisticated in editing video, or especially editing 360 video, which requires stitching and really more of a dynamic workflow, the Insta360 One R is supposed to offer you a little bit of a better and easier user experience versus the GoPro Max. Aside from that, I've also watched several YouTube videos comparing the GoPro Max to the Insta360 One R, and I think in general I've been really pleased with the clarity that the Insta360 One R is putting out. So again, with the Twin Edition, you're gonna get the 360 camera as well as the 4K wide angle mod, and without further ado, let's open up the box and take this thing out. So we're gonna start with the Twin Edition box. I like being careful when I'm unboxing. I like keeping the box in good shape. Slide off the top, and there we have it, the Insta360 One R Twin Edition. All right, so what we have in here is the 4K mod with the body mod attached to it. We have the 360 mod in this separate kind of nook in the middle, and then we have the battery down here. Taking out the 4K mod, this is so tiny. Just this camera on its own, the mod with the body, is a really small package. It's really light, it weighs almost nothing. It's actually surprising for some reason that it's so small. And now we have the 360 mod. And again, the main advantage of this camera is that it is modular. So you get the 4K mod, which is coming attached to the body in the box, and then you also get the 360 mod. And all you need to do is essentially swap out this lens module to go from a 4K action camera to a 5.7K 360 camera. And when you look at, for example, the competitive offering from GoPro pairing the Max with the Hero 8, that's going to put you at about $800 versus this package right here is only going to cost you a little less than $500. And now the last thing we have in the box is the battery. This is the standard battery. It should give you 40 to 50 minutes shooting in 360. I'm gonna put the exact number that Insta360 states on the screen here. You do have the option to purchase the extended battery, and that's gonna more than double the battery life that you can get out of this camera. So the last part of this package is to take this little box. Here we have the charging cable, and this is gonna be a USB-C, so that's good to see. Also in here, we have the protective housing. So this is where you're gonna get your GoPro style mount. As you can see here with the two little knobs and the screw goes through the center. This is kind of your action camera mount. And then in addition, at the bottom of this little segment, you do have a tripod mount here, so this can easily screw into whatever tripod or gimbal you might be using. That being said, I did just mention gimbal, and I want to quickly say that you probably don't need a gimbal when you're using this camera. Insta360 is supposed to have some of the best image stabilization on the market with their flow state technology. With 360 video, you almost don't need any stabilization at all, just because it's already recording everything that could potentially be in the frame. So the last thing we have are your lens guards, and this is going to be used for your 360 mod. It's a nice rubber lens guard that's going to go slide right over your 360 mod for easy storage. Make sure your lenses don't get scratched when you throw it in a backpack. The lens component and the body here simply just come apart. It's as easy as that. It's a plug, a little connector right in the center, and it slides right in and slides right out. Simple as that. So now that we have this pile of components here, I'm gonna go ahead and connect the mod to the battery, throw it in the mounting bracket, and show you what everything looks like together. Okay, so I've connected the camera to the battery, and one thing that I want to say is that there is a slight gap between the battery and the camera module, and this is what your finished product is going to look like with the camera inside the mounting bracket. Now, I'm really anxious to go out and test this camera for the first time, so I'm going to really quickly show you the accessories that I purchased to go with the One R. So here is our invisible selfie stick, and it's really nice. It's sturdy, it's metal, and then it's got this little rubberized grip here towards the bottom. One accessory that I guess is optional, but is almost a must-have, is the lens guards. I know I see people making videos without these, but personally, I ride a lot of electric skateboards and do a lot of action sports. All right, so I'm just gonna slide out one of the lens guards and show you right here. So it clips on to the front of the mounting bracket really easily. It's a super simple two-step process. There's these little metal bars. So what you're gonna do is just simply rest the back part of the lens cover on to the top of the metal bar, rotate it back, and then press in. And you actually do have to press with some force, but it goes on. And this is what it looks like with the lens guard on the mounting bracket. I would definitely recommend the lens guards if you do any kind of action sports or it's any serious activity. If you break a lens, you're going to have to replace the 360 mod. That's gonna run you $300 and a little bit of time. So personally, I'll take the lens guards and protect the equipment that I have. All right, that's it for the unboxing segment of this video. Now we're gonna take this camera out, hop on the electric skateboards, go for a ride, and collect some test footage to show you guys. All right, guys, well, I think we're now recording on the Insta360 One R. It's gonna be a fun little ride. I hope this is working. I did have some trouble connecting the app, which is something I wanna say right off the bat. That's a little weird, but anyway, I just hit record on the camera, and hopefully it should be working fine. Also, just to tell you about the angle that you're looking at right now, I have the selfie stick at a little less than halfway out, so I think it should be a pretty close view relative to what we can do. Now that we have the camera rolling, a lot of the shots that I was doing resulted in a lot of wind noise, so we're going to switch over to voiceover for this section of the video. I'm going to be walking you through some of the different shots that I took and some of the different edits that I put together using the Insta360 app. So the first thing I want to note is the settings that I was using. I was recording in H.264, I found out after the fact, which is the standard setting that the camera ships with. I didn't go into the menu to change it before I started shooting. The colors are really good. I think the automatic white balance settings are doing a really good job here. The highlights aren't too blown out and the shadows are well exposed. The detail is fairly good. Again, this camera is shooting in 5.7K, so overall I was happy with the resolution and the definition that was coming out of this camera out of the box. And you can see that orange kind of popping off of my face from the sunset. And then using the app, obviously you can just pan around here so I can go from facing myself to facing what's in front of me from editing in the app at any time. I did end up taking off the lens guards for this video, which I said I wasn't going to do, but they weren't quite fitting on the way that I wanted them to. And right there you'll hear me comment on not using the lens guards, and that's something that I'm going to get into again at a later video, but I did find that the lens guards produce a pretty serious flaring effect with light that is coming in from the side. And then another thing I noticed here, which I'm going to slow down for you, is the stitch line, and it is relatively pronounced with the Insta360 One R. I've read that compared to the Insta360 One X, being a slimmer camera profile, that actually has less of a visible stitch line, especially in close distances. The farther something is away, the easier it's going to be to stitch that image together, and the closer it is to the camera, the more difficult it's going to be. I'm excited to see how this turns out, because that light shining through the trees was really beautiful. Now, one cool thing about being able to capture an image this wide is that you get kind of this speed warp effect. And if you're skating, snowboarding, skiing, shooting from the inside of a car, riding a motorcycle, doing anything like that, this is going to be a really cool effect that's produced by this ultra wide angle 5.7K image. Now right here towards the middle, again, you can see sort of a light artifact, and that's going to be coming directly from the lens. Again, I was not using the lens guards in this section of the video. So now I want to show you a comparison between shooting 5.7K at 30 FPS, 4K at 50 FPS, and then finally 3.6K at 120 frames per second. Now you can see in this first clip at 5.7K, it's really crisp. You do get a little bit of blown out highlights coming off of the house, but in general the detail, the quality is really strong with a 5.7K, and that's zoomed into probably about a quarter of the overall image that this camera is capturing. Now at 4K, you can notice a little bit of a loss in quality compared to the 5.7K. It similarly has the blown out highlights looking at the house, but the colors are still almost exactly the same and the image quality is still really good. This is slowed down to half speed, which is probably the main use case that you'll have for using 4K 50 FPS. Now here's the 3.6K 120 FPS, and as you can see, it is slowed down to 25% of normal speed. And this is actually how it came out of the camera. So when I loaded this video up into the Insta360 app, it was already slowed down to 1/4 speed. I'm not sure if this is a setting that I had set in the camera while I was shooting, or if that 1/4 speed is just the automatic output that you get when shooting in 120 FPS, but that is again how this video file exported when I loaded it into the Insta360 app. So here we're just playing some badminton, and what I wanted to show within this clip is that you can switch to different views within the same video clip. So you can go from shooting a tiny planet to shooting a flat image to shooting a wide angle shot, all within your edit of the same clip. And if you look in certain frames, especially around the left hand side and when there's closer views of the grass, you can actually notice that there's some artifacting or pixelation that is visible. So this could be something to do with encoding or the bitrate at which I exported these files. So this is kind of a cool fact and something that I just wanted to put in here. It's basically an inverse tiny planet. And one thing that is kind of weird, that in this super wide angle view, it almost looks like I'm looking to the left side. And that just shows when you're using some of these views, the perspective is going to be a little bit distorted because it's not a linear frame.
Little stabilization test.
So here we're doing a stabilization test, and I'm basically just holding the Insta360 One R on top of the selfie stick around my yard, ducking under a branch there, and I'm really impressed with the stabilization from the Insta360 One R. Again, this is with the flow state technology enabled. You can see that it basically removes all of the bounce, all of the shutter, and the net result is an extremely smooth shot that you would be happy with under any circumstances. Alright guys, that was a lot of fun. This camera is super fun to use. I haven't reviewed the footage yet. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that now. And of course by this time you've already seen it. So really excited once again to have this camera. The combination of having the 360 module and the 4K module together is something that was extremely appealing to me. Just in my initial use of this camera and opening up the app for the first time, I found it to be extremely simple and intuitive. I'm really enjoying this camera a lot so far, and there's a lot more to come. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.